Hey guys, what's up? Today we've got a new advanced server update featuring talent changes, roaming skills, and big nerfs. First up is the nerf on Julian and Rose Gold Meteor. The dev said this item was overly beneficial to Julian, so they will change his main role from fighter into assassin. Now that Julian is classified as an assassin, he'll only receive half the hybrid defense from Rose Gold Meteor's passive. Say goodbye to tanky Julian once this update drops. This change is expected to go live after Season 35 ends on March 19. So you've got a month left to take advantage of that Julian Rose Gold combo. Next up is the nerf on Badang. His first kill range is getting shortened. This nerf is probably related to how easy it is to collect stacks for Thunderbelt. The shortened range should make stacking harder and make him less dominating. His second skill dash will also be shortened, but in exchange, the speed is now faster. While this might tone down his dominance in ranked games, it's not a complete shutdown. You'll still have some playmaking potential, just with a little less range to work with. Next is the nerf on Hayabusa. The developer said his ultimate can easily eliminate backliners without any passive stacks. To fix this, they've lowered his ultimate damage by 10% at attack scaling. In return, the extra damage from the stacks is getting a higher base damage. If we look closely, the attack scaling is changed from total to extra physical attack. What does it mean? Well, here's a quick damage test on his ultimate, starting with no stacks. As expected, the official server had the higher damage. Now let's try it with full stacks. And as you can see, the official server still had the higher damage. So yeah, it's a nerf, regardless if you can apply stacks or not. Zushin is up next, and her second skill mana cost is now slightly higher. That's an extra 15 mana in the late game. I don't think it's enough to move her out of the ban section though. Next, we have the buff on Argus. The heal effect after his ultimate ends is now based on all the damage dealt. That means that includes the damage for minions, jungle creeps, and even towers. On the official server, only the damage dealt to heroes are counted. But now, everything is converted to HP. This should improve his survivability after his ultimate ends. However, after testing it with Esmeralda, the damage against shield is still not included. As you can see, I didn't heal after attacking Esmeralda's shield, and that also includes the tower shield. So no healing effect when dealing damage to shield. Still, it's a good buff, right? Next is the buff on Gord. Instead of 4, his passive will now only need 3 hits before the true damage activates. That means you get to activate it more often from his ultimate and second skill. But in exchange, they had to remove the ability to activate the passive with basic attacks. So now, only skill damage can add stacks. No need to hit the enemy with basic attacks, which is kinda awkward for a mage. To balance, the passive is adjusted with a minus 20 points of base damage. And then, we also have a new skill indicator for his first skill. It's now easier to see where his balls will land. Next, we have the buff on Minotaur's first skill. The dash range is now longer, allowing him to reach more enemies with his knock-up effect. And it also gives him more freedom to leap over walls. Next is the buff on Lucas. The devs removed the aftershock damage on his ultimate. Instead, it will now deal single damage to all enemies within the area. On the old version, only one target will receive the main damage, while the rest are aftershock, resulting in a lower overall damage. As you can see, this Layla received the most damage, while the rest still had plenty HP left. Now if I try the new version, we can see that all of them received equal damage. So yeah, the skill will now work better if you hit multiple enemies. Next is the buff on Eudora, where they lowered the mana cost on her first and second skill. The dev said she was experiencing significant mana shortages, that's why they had to fix it. Next is the buff on Brody. The backswing of his skill 1 and 2 are reduced by 40 and 20%. What it means? It means they've shortened the brief delay that occurs after using the skill. There's now lesser delay before you can take another action such as moving, attacking, or casting another skill. So smoother combos for our Brody players. Next is the Revamped Kimy. Her first skill now releases more rackets from 4 to 6. Her skill 2 is now faster and they've added a knockback effect. It's not so useless unlike before. And her ultimate can now deal damage based on the enemy's current HP. Expect more changes in the coming weeks while the devs are fine-tuning her skills. Next are the talent adjustments. Killing Spree will now have a cooldown of 30 seconds. But don't worry because it's now easier to activate. If you deal damage to an enemy hero with below 30% HP, you get to activate Killing Spree. So you don't have to kill an enemy to get healed and get that movement boost. But if you do kill an enemy, the cooldown of the talent will reset. That means you can still get continuous healing if you're on a killing rampage. Temporal Rain will have a shorter duration from 5 to 4 seconds. But in return, the cooldown reduction is higher at 1.5 seconds on the non-ultimate skills. Focusing Mark will now give 10% movement speed whenever you apply its mark. So that's 6% more damage from allies and then a slight movement boost for the Rumor. Tenacity will now give 5% damage reduction instead of defense. And the required HP activation is now higher from 35 to 50%. I think this is way better than before because damage reduction is pretty hard to get. Meanwhile, defense stats are easily accessible through Thunderbelt and other basic items. The roaming skill and courage will now give defense instead of attack and attack speed. That's an additional 12 to 30 hybrid defense to any nearby teammates, and that includes the roamer. The R-Hit will no longer deal extra damage on low HP targets. Instead, the roamer will now place a mark on the enemy whenever they apply crowd control. When teammates attack that marked target, the mark is removed and the target takes extra damage. That's 7 to 18% extra damage based on the enemy's max HP. So no more dire hit for damaged roamers like Natalia, Saber, and Hulker. I tested slow, but it can trigger the dire hit effect. So yeah, only hard CC effects like stun, knockback, and others can activate dire hit. And that's a wrap for this week's Advanced Server patch. This update is likely going live after Season 35 ends, so enjoy the current meta while you can. Do you like the changes on the roaming skills? How about the new talent effects? Let me know in the comments. Stay safe and thank you for watching.